recording. And we're live. Coming up. How are you, my friend?
We are.
We're live. Just like that.
We're live. Yes, we are. Hi. Good
Hello.
to see you. Hello. Bonjour. Hi.
Bonjour, hi. Soon. I will do the proper, just like double check everything. Everything look good still. It's fine.
Yes. So Frank, what are we doing today?
We'll tell you in 10 seconds. Let's get started with a proper, clean introduction. Bonjour, hi, welcome to the stream. And he's doing his funny face again, right? Today, we continue in this adventure with Brian Clark on the stream, learning more about Visual Studio Code, the best extension you can find today on the market, before you create your own, to work with Azure or on Azure. We couldn't decide if it was on or in or with. Put the adverb that you want there. Welcome to the show again, Mr. Brian. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I am doing well. How are you, Frank?
I'm pretty good. It was a good weekend, good autumn. Very kind of typical weekend. So did some photography, walk outside, try to get out, not being in front of my computer. How about you?
Did notice you got out too, because I follow you on the Instagrams, as the kids say, and I enjoy following you on the Instagrams and seeing your nature journeys that you go on between kayaking and hiking.
Yeah. Nature. I was worried for a split second.
Why? You have nothing to worry about with.
Yeah, I know you're PG, so should be fine, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I was like, what? There's tons of stuff on the chat, but that was the previous show. Okay.
Yeah.
So hello, people in the chat. If you have any question, feel free to ask them all along. We are, like you probably saw on the show All Around Azure, we are evolving a little bit our format. So today, the plan of today, like I said, is to talk about the Visual Studio Code extension. We also want to share a very cool Learn module. When you start with with Visual Studio Code or VS Code, there's an excellent module for that in Microsoft Learn. In fact, there's many, but we picked one because we only have a limited time to do that. So we'll do that. But before we jump into the technical stuff, I wanna help people to know you better, Mr. Clark, Mr. Brian Clarkio. It's so hard for me to not call you Clarkio. It's like Insta-Fluff. Like I cannot call him by his first name. It's like it's impossible.
Just say fluff, right? Insta. Or fluff. Yeah.
Hey.
I don't mind.
Belle datas. Bonjour.
Hello.
So I have a few questions. Nothing too hard. You should be able to answer those.
I will not give you my social security number, Frank.
It was not my intention.
Okay, just making sure that's clear.
Yeah, no. One question that I want to ask to everybody. So first, let's just, like very high level. You are a Microsoft employee. you are a cloud advocate, right? Just like me. But you are
Yes.
focusing on which area? Like, what's your focus as a?
Well, that's an interesting question because I don't know that I am focused enough to know what my focus is.
Oh
No.
boy.
Well, let's put it this way. So my background is in web development, and my focus has been since the beginning of the team starting and being an employee has been around web development and the tooling around it, in particular Visual Studio Code, or VS Code, if you will. But I am currently on the team that focuses on academics, so the academic audience. How can we, as cloud advocates, help folks in that community, in the academic community, both faculty and students that are in college, high school, varying levels of stages of education? How can we help engage with them, find out what are the things that they need for their development purposes and the courses that they might be going through and the curriculum they have? That's the team I'm on that's focused on that kind of stuff. So
That's a good
that.
focus, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not focused on a tech, but it's focused on a context kind of thing. Onboarding,
Yes.
like what kind of challenge they have and stuff like that. So I'm assuming they are trying a lot of new things, looking for documentation, different tools. So yeah, that was the perfect answer, sir. So I told you you're 100% on it. Hey, Robert Table.
Hey, Robert Tables.
Okay, next question. That's a question I want to ask every guest on the show, because for me, when I started, I was not sure what I wanted to do. Like, it was not obvious for me. I want to be a policeman or I want to be a teacher. Like, I had no clue. So I would like, did you know, and when did you know that you want to work in IT or be a developer or something like that?
Oh, that's an interesting question too. Thank you for you got all these thought-provoking questions that I'm not ready to answer.
That's
But
how you know, like, I don't share the question before people.
No. It's not. Yeah, it's not like that. Yeah. So when I was younger, I mean, well, even now, I'm an avid gamer, and I really enjoyed playing video games when I was younger. Spent a lot of time on it, and I was really into the Halo series. And so much so that I was following the development company Bungie at that point in time. And so at that moment when I was doing that, I was like, I knew I loved working or learning things on the computer. Like at the time, the same time frame that this was all going on, we had like a Packard Bell computer, and I was just learning everything and like how to fix things, how to tinker. I just enjoy tinkering and like breaking things open and seeing how things work inside of them. And so I knew that I liked that about computers, but I also liked gaming. So I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll get into game development. And as I was following along with Bungie, I realized that a lot of them, there was this recurring theme that they felt, this pressure, it's just very,
Layoff.
not that it's, what's that? No, what'd you say?
Laying off?
No, not like that. But there was just some of them would kind of describe their work-life balance was not very good. Like they would spend days at the office in crunch time leading up to the release date of a game coming out. And I was like, at a young age, I was like, I don't want that. Like as much as I think this is cool and I want to be into it, I didn't go. I was like, I don't want to go that route. So then I was like, okay, I know I wanted to do stuff with computers. And so I knew like at a fairly early age, I would say. So probably around like 16 is when I knew I wanted to do something with computers.
Wow, okay.
And then when it came to college, I didn't know what I wanted to specialize in terms of like around computers. So I went for a degree in computer engineering, because that to me felt like, based on the curriculum that I saw schools were posting about, it would be like partly hardware, partly software. And it turns out though that my schooling leaned very heavily on the hardware side of the studies and less on the software side of things. And I got more of the software education via hands-on, on the job kind of training things via internships and whatnot, not on my own. So yeah, there you go. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I love it. Like I'm okay. So you knew really early, I would say, because for me it was definitely not like that.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate that I did know early on, and then I like stuck with it, and I just it lucked out that even beyond, because like at 16 you might be into one thing at that point in time, but you change. I mean, even as I'm older, my interests change. But I think I feel very fortunate that it worked out, that what I was interested in at 16 was something that I would be interested in for my my lifetime, at least for now, until maybe that changes. And I remember, to this day I remember my dad being so surprised by that too. He's like, dang, you know what you want to do and you're going for it. Cool. Like he was surprised.
So based on that comment, I assume you wouldn't like to go back and change anything?
No regrets, Frank. No regrets. In fact, I have that tattooed and misspelled on my chest.
I want to see it now.
This is a PG stream, Frank. I'm not gonna. No, sorry.
Hey, chat, if you have any question you would like to know about Brian, leave it in the chat, and I will, like, if it's possible, if it makes sense, I will ask it. So next thing is, do you think you have a superhero? Let's say like you're learning super fast, or like you can program 10,000 different languages, or like do you have what's your superpower as a developer?
Ooh, oh, for me? Oh my gosh, Frank, what is with all these hard questions? Holy
yeah, we
cow,
level up
man.
while. If you didn't know, it's the second episode Brian is coming, because last time we had way too much fun. So we didn't cover all the material we had planned. So today we continue. And you know what? One thing I should have done is share the first episode. Let me post that before. So I'm just trying to do that so you have more time to think in your head, right? So if you want to watch, not right now, because right now we're watching episode 2, but if you want to watch episode 1 of Brian being on All Around Azure, you could watch at this URL here, so cloud5minute.ca/AAA for All Around Azure, episode 37. So yes, I will let you now answer. What's your superpower?
Well, really quick, I want to. We have Eldathis in chat was saying that they wanted to be a game developer too when they were young. It's led them to learn a bit of Ruby scripting for making RPG games, role-playing games, and they also tried C# with XNA, RIP in parentheses, but then quickly abandoned. Now they do machine learning research. That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
I'm glad to hear about that, Eldathis. Thank you for sharing.
So we'll keep the rubber table question for after.
Okay. So the question you had asked me was if I could call out so this is being very self-aware kind of question. If I could call out a superpower I have as
a thing that you feel is your superpower. Like, I'm not looking for I'm the best, like I'm the strongest, or I'm the faster to like, no, based like on the thing that you feel like it's your superpower because you're never afraid to jump in this kind of stuff because whatever.
Yeah. I would say, I don't know, like, with this question, everything that's coming to mind is less about technical superpowers for me and more about human and social side of being a developer. I think that I feel I have a strong sense of, and that is like just being, I don't know, because you mentioned like not that you're the best developer or fastest developer, like, and anybody that knows, I know you know this about me too, but for folks that might be watching this and learning about me for the first time, I have a strong aversion towards like arrogance and like big egos, and so like I kind of over-index going the other way in terms of like, putting myself down kind of thing, but in that sense I feel I'm probably a superpower would be maybe being humble and just like knowing that I don't know everything, and being willing to learn and show compassion to other people, other developers that are going through similar things, learning as well, kind of thing, and trying to just do their best and make a living and that kind of thing.
Well, I think it's a very good superpower. I think it's totally good. Like here you say like Brian's superpower is coding with VS Code using only voice. So I'm assuming you did some progress on that work you're doing on your own stream, right?
Yeah, we've been doing this not experiment, but just trying to experience and see what it's like trying to program with just your voice. Don't use your hands at all. Start a whole project from scratch with just your voice. And it's been we've found some success with doing it. There's definitely some hurdles and challenges with that, and it's helpful to gather that kind of feedback and see, where we as a community or just companies can try and fill in those gaps and make things better. But yeah, it's been fun, and thank you, Built Atlas, for bringing that up. I've been having fun with that. I'm glad to see that you've been enjoying it as well.
Well, like it, maybe you don't feel like it's your superpower, but it's definitely a big strength to be able to jump on something you don't know live on camera and code with it. Like that's not easy. Like to have, like, I've been trying to do that and feel always very comfortable, but you've been doing that for a while on your stream. Like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway, and it will be fun, and like you make it a show of it. So like it's really good.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so now let's go with the chat question from Robert Table asking, what is the one technology you've never used that you want to in the next 6 months? So something you never touch, but in the next 6 months, it's kind of a promise to yourself. I want to try that.
I appreciate that question. I honestly don't know. Um, well, I guess there's one that I have kind of tried out a little bit, but I haven't really dug deep into it and given a strong kind of look. And I would say that's Vue.js probably for me. I have some side projects, actually for work for this channel, even to like present the analytics of this channel and like how it does and things like that, so that folks that need that data can get access to it.
Well, to
And
improve,
right
right?
now,
It's important. I'm the
yeah,
first one looking for those things because it is important.
yeah. So I have a tool that's built out that does that I can share that data more easily from the channel, because otherwise you have to log in, and we don't want to be sharing logins and stuff like that. So anyway, I built a tool like that, but it's a very rough UI, and so I feel it's an opportunity to apply a nicer UI and a framework that can help with doing that to make it look better. And Vue.js has been on my mind to do that. So I would say probably that one, but I don't know that it's a fair answer because of the fact that Robert Tables included. It's a technology you've never used. I have, but not into an actual project. I've done like just reading a little bit about the documentation and maybe like a hello world kind of spin up. The CLI tool scaffolds out the project for me, and I run that and see how it goes. Right.
Well,
So that's kind of been
I
my
think it's
experience.
fair. Like that doesn't
Okay.
count. Like
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
just like you saw it, never like really We all know that a hello word give you a glimpse of what it could be and stuff like that, but you really learn a language or a tech when you decide, okay, I want to go there, not
Yes.
there.
Right. Right.
Right, I want to
Yeah.
do this thing, and now like, oh, now you need to work around and find your solution and stuff. So yeah, so I think it's pretty good. Okay, so one more question, and after that we should jump to the demo, because I'm sure people love learning more about you, but we have some extension to cover. If we have time, we'll ask more questions at the end.
Okay.
How long do you guys think it would take for me 14 learn C#, or what program? What?
So they're asking, and this is Loa XV2. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Says, how long do you all think
14
it
years
would
old.
take?
Sorry, it was me so being slow. Continue, Brian.
Yeah. So as a 14-year-old looking to, I imagine, just get into programming from the start, right? Let us know. Give us some more context about that, and let us know what the situation is. And then they go on to say, or what programming language do you think I should be programming? So I don't know, Frank, if anything comes to mind off the bat that you want to jump in. Otherwise, I'm happy to go for it.
You're the guest. Go.
All right. My answer to that is to figure out what is the things. Well, one, I would say you don't, as you're learning programming, you don't have to have an original idea. You don't have to come up with some new product that's gonna, you think is gonna start a business for you, kind of thing. That seems to be a common theme that I've found with people that ask this question. I'm not saying this is necessarily you as well, LoAX V2, But a common theme I've found is people think that they want to get into programming, and part of the reason why they want to get into programming is because they want to start a business of their own and, make the next, big website or something like that, which is fine. That's good to have that aspiration. But the point I want to make with this, though, is as you're learning or looking to learn about programming so you can figure out how to build those things, don't worry about trying to build that thing right off the bat. Focus on learning first, and don't worry about having to create, while you're learning, to practice that learning. Don't worry about it being practiced against your actual thing that you want to build just yet, or even having that idea just yet. You can recreate existing apps just to get that practice under your belt, just to get that experience so that you can learn and get the practicality of actually writing the code to build something. So don't worry about if it's the same thing that's already been built, like a to-do app, or even just the Hello World stuff, which is the beginner stuff. So I hope that helps kind of clarify that, to set some of the groundwork, the foundation in answering this question. In terms of how long it would take, I don't want you to put any pressure on yourself either in terms of having a set time frame, because the reality is if you're going to stick with this industry and you find that you really are interested in doing programming for a living, you're going to find you need to have this mentality of, I'm always going to be learning. I always have to adjust and learn new programming languages, new technology.
New way to use the same tech. I'm relearning JavaScript because back in the day, 15 years ago, it was definitely not the same as today. So even if it's the same language.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so the key with that is you're always going to be learning. So I would not try to put a time frame on how much time it should take you to learn something. Just have a goal of, let's say you mentioned C#. If that's a programming language that interests you, go for it. Run with it. There's a reason why you've had this gut feeling that you want to try that out. Focus on just spending as much time as you can among balancing other things going on in your life, and spend time on learning and making progress with learning C#. If you were to ask me to, if somebody came in completely fresh, they didn't know what language to start with, I would lean towards Python right now, and maybe a second option would be JavaScript. Those two I've found to be very beginner friendly in terms of just getting introduced to programming in general. And then the other programming languages are all, unique and bring value in their own way. But I think as a beginner, completely new, don't know, and haven't learned any other concepts of programming prior to starting this, Python and JavaScript are two options to pick from with that.
Sure, they are very accessible. You could create many different things. I think when you are learning, it's easier when you can write some piece of code and see some result. If you can repeat that very easily and on-prem, web, on devices like Raspberry Pi and what's the other little IoT thing? I forgot the name.
Arduino.
There's and Python and JavaScript will be helpful for those. I learn on C and C++, but you need to compile it to see the result. And when you start, it's much easier to just do console application. Otherwise, it's getting more complex to if you do web or if you do nice interface on a PC. It's different things, I think. But it's better if you try to build something, if you have something in mind. Like I mentioned previously, it's only then that you really make a move, right?
Yes. I see Melindu in chat says I learned COBOL and Fortran. LOL. No worries.
On my curriculum at school, one of the course was COBOL, and I was like, what? No, I don't want to learn COBOL. I want to learn something else. But the course was COBOL, and we did something else completely.
So one last note on the whole learning thing, because I think you bring up a good point in terms of you mentioned C, C++. Part of the reason why I suggest Python and JavaScript is because what you kind of mentioned. What tends to happen in programming in general is there's so many different things to potentially learn that go into it. There's so many tools and technology that can be bundled even within Python. But the idea is you want to kind of block those out for now, especially at the beginning and just learning programming, and focus on learning a programming language so you can get that foundation underneath you, and then you can worry about pulling in these other tools and stuff like that that will help you in building out applications with that language. So it's really hard to reduce the friction and the distraction from other tooling and just even technologies and libraries that plug into this whole idea of a programming language in itself. So yeah. Try to stay focused on the language.
But since you already know other language, like the more you learn languages, the easier it gets to learn new more, because a loop will stay a loop, a condition will be a condition. But at the same time, like, you could mix up different languages and say, oh, how do I write a loop, a for each loop in this language? And like, but then like a quick search will, okay, and then like you know where you are and you progress. But I enjoy the road, and again, how long, it's very difficult. It depends. Like, if you're at school, then you have other priorities than learning the C#. C# though is very well documented and like things like that. So today it's also very accessible. Not like if you're trying to learn COBOL or Fortran, documentation would be a little bit more harder to find. So it's definitely an easy language to pick up. So you should be able to have a glimpse kind of quickly to create something, but then to call you like, I know C#, that could take a little bit of time. So don't be too hard on you. Enjoy the journey, I would say. That would be my best, not advice, but keep that in mind.
Yeah, cool.
We had one more question, but I will keep it for later. And I ask Bet to remind me later on. It was about other tools than VS Code for accessibility. So that's a really good one, I think, but I want to reserve that for later. But now I would like to share your screen, Mr. Brian, and jump on VS Code and continue to explore the Visual Studio extension. So let's move on.
Yes. And thank you everybody in chat for your questions.
Yeah, great question, everybody.
I love the transitions you have, by the way.
Thank you. I work hard on that, and I'm planning to add more stuff.
Oh, we must talk more. All right, so to kind of pick up where we last left off from the last time I was on the show, part one, which again, Frank has shared the link to that. I don't know if you want to drop that in the chat one more time for folks to maybe catch up on again. In that, we reviewed this Azure Tools extension. Yes, it's on screen. So this Azure Tools, if you go into the Visual Studio Code app, you click on this little, building blocks kind of icon. It might be on the left side for you. I have mine on the right side. We can save a discussion on that at a later time on why I do that. But you click on that icon, it brings up the extensions view. And if you search for Azure Tools, you will see this first option at the top. And that is it's what's described as an extension pack. It basically aggregates other extensions together for a single, focus or idea. Like you'll see ones around Angular or React or Vue or Python. People can aggregate a bunch of extensions together to make it easy to find ones that are going to help you with your development workflow for building out applications, websites, whatnot, with those tools.
It's like a six-pack. It's a bunch of muscle grouped together. Great tool work to group together.
Yes, what's interesting, when you said six-pack,
you were thinking about
six-pack
drinks.
Of muscle, and I'm thinking about a six-pack of beers or something. So there's where's our
no, those one doesn't help with the other six-pack.
Right, exactly. So Azure Tools is an aggregation extension pack, so to speak, and in there it comes with a bunch of Azure-related extensions that are going to help you with working within Azure when you're going to be using Azure as your cloud provider for various purposes. So some of those purposes would be based on the products within Azure you might use. There's Azure App Service, Azure Functions, Azure Storage, Azure Databases, and so on. I believe, I don't believe, I know we covered a little bit Azure App Service in the last session, Azure Functions, and Azure Databases. Right, Frank?
Yep.
So today what we're hoping to possibly cover is Azure Storage, Azure Resource Manager, and Docker in terms of what's available in the Azure.
The CLI tool, we could have a glimpse of that. It's pretty handy also. If you're writing scripts, or like I could even, yeah. Like if you don't know that one because you didn't do, I could help guide you to just discover it. It's pretty cool. I use that all the time.
I'm actually interested in you showing that because to me, honestly, as a web developer who would use Azure for the purposes around web development type stuff, the Azure CLI Tools extension, I don't know why I would personally use it. I haven't discovered it or dug deeper to try and figure out why I might use that particular extension. Whereas in my experience, I've used like Azure Databases, Azure App Service, Azure Functions before for the purposes of the type, but that's just the type of development I'm doing and the type of work I'm doing within Azure. But everybody uses Azure in their own unique way for their purposes, right?
Definitely. And that's the beauty of it. That's why we have All Around Azure, because there's so much stuff you can coming from or going to, where Azure in the middle or around it, whatever.
So here's the thing with that in mind, right? Is that's a beautiful thing to have all those options, but that's a lot of options. But maybe you've already figured out which products you're going to be using for your purpose of development. I don't guarantee, but I want to say the nice thing here is if you know the name of the product that you're using in Azure, there's likely a corresponding extension within Visual Studio Code that will help you out with that. So right now, this is kind of just showing you some of the core ones based on these Azure tools. But there's other ones that if you just search for Azure in the marketplace, the extension marketplace for VS Code, there's going to be other options beyond just the ones that are installed, a part of this extension pack. I wonder if there's, it might be that there's a limit of how many extensions can be included. Maybe not. Don't quote me on that. Never mind. I take that back. So like if you're working, for instance, right, we see in the extension pack, app service functions, all this stuff right here. These are the ones that are included. Azure IoT Hub is not in there. Right, so if you're doing IoT related stuff, which we were talking about before, like Raspberry Pi or Arduino, and you're using Azure to like be a hub for that kind of thing, and controlling all those devices, interacting with them, gathering data on them, you're using the Azure IoT Hub. You can get this extension to work, within the idea with all this is kind of so you don't necessarily have to go to the portal to set things up, or you don't have to necessarily go to the Azure CLI to like spin things up. I mean, you can go those routes if you prefer, but the idea with this is it's another way, another avenue you can use and take to approach managing and using the different products you're working with within Azure, all within the context of the tool that you're writing code within, right? That's kind of the beauty of it in my eyes. So, yeah, I guess let's start off with Azure Storage.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I will answer James your question. James was asking what's the benefit of the CLI extension. I will answer that when we get to that extension.
Okay, cool.
If it's okay with everyone else, I mean.
So with Azure Storage, I had it installed already, just re-enabled it for the purposes of this demonstration. And then what that does is in the past, right? So there's this icon on the right-hand side. This side of me? Yeah, this side. The little Azure icon that shows up in the activity bar whenever you install an Azure-related extension. That'll bring up this new kind of like the File Explorer view, but there's these different collapsible sections. In the past, we looked at database, app services, and functions, but now that I have the Azure Storage extension installed, it just gets added as another section as part of this view. And so this allows me to explore any resources or instances of Azure Storage that I have set up, which to be honest, I'm not sure. I don't work with Azure Storage that much with the stuff.
You work with Azure Storage, you just don't know it.
That's the thing, right? That's what I'm kind of...
Azure Storage is everywhere. Is the resources across the board. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And I've kind of realized that a little bit in this. For instance, like I didn't know that these two were here. These ones that are showing up under my one subscription that I have. This BC Housebot and my chat bow. I must have got cut off, or I had a typo. I don't know. Those two are instances of Azure Storage. I'm kind of hesitant to open these up, but I mean, whatever. Let's go for it. Azure Web Jobs Host, file shares, queues, and tables. So for me, I would probably, in the past, at least a little bit that I've done with exploring with Azure Storage is around the table side of things.
Yep.
and exploring what's being able to store stuff in. Oh, there's bot data. So maybe that's like the logs and history of the bot data. What happens? Let's do host logs. What does that do?
We did cover, if you're interested to learn more on Azure Storage, we had 2 shows with Shannon Keen on that episode. I'm looking through the archive here, 38 and 43, I think. If you go at blog.allaroundazure.com, we spend a lot of time talking about the only topic of those episodes were the Azure Storage. So what we see right now in the Azure Storage extension is when you create an account, you have the blob. So that's where you put images, video, like it's kind of a, just like a little bit of everything, just like a blob, right? Just like, and like it's oh, that's a hard one. Compartmented. Divide by containers, but not the rubber table containers. Then you have the files, if you think about VMs and shared folder and stuff like that. So the files share is that kind of storage. Then you have the queues. So when you decouple different system and you want to have like priorities, for example, the most common example is if you have like a store that record transaction and you have a backend process processing those transactions. In between, you will put a queues. There's more stable, more powerful queues than the one in storage, but that's a good one sometime when you want to try or experiment. And then the tables is a unstructured kind of or a structure. It's like table storage tables. The tables in storage are. I'm not sure if they are. I think they are called structure NoSQL, kind of. They are in between those two. Like I use that a lot for my UL shortener. I use that because they are very, very budget friendly. So that's pretty cool that you could explore all of those. Like there's a Storage Explorer that it's a standalone tool that work on any platform. But that's pretty cool that you could add it directly from Visual Studio.
Yeah, and kind of what we saw with like the other in the past episode, a lot of functionality that you would typically expect to do directly in the portal or maybe through the Azure CLI, you can do via this extension in this little Explorer view here. In that, like I can, you right click and get that context menu. You can do things like open in Storage Explorer if you have that, open it in the portal up on your browser, copy the connection string. So if you're doing this development and you don't want to have to go back, maybe you close down your browser for the portal and you don't want to have to go back and try and find the connection string, you just copy it directly here. Browse the static website. Oh, you can deploy. This is new. I didn't know that. Deploy to static website via Azure Storage. Okay.
Well, that
we go.
That would be not the new static webs.
It's not? Okay.
It's like before the new package, like the new one that was released at Ignite.
Yes.
The static web app. It's kind of a packaging or a wrap between Azure Function for a dynamic backend and the static web app inside the storage. So Microsoft packaged all of those, had a little like kind of hidden functionalities there, and like they introduced the new Azure static web app. This is a static website. Oh no, it's a web app. Maybe it is. But I felt like it was
extension. Sorry, while you were talking through that, Frank,
yeah.
I was like, you know what? I want to see if we have an extension for VS Code yet for it, and we do. It's in preview. Big parentheses right there. In fact, I'm going to install this now.
Yeah, I think the one in storage was website. That's the difference.
Yes. Oops. Go back here. Here.
That one will create a storage with a container called _web. I mean, like you can still do that, but
right.
Yeah.
But there's probably it's the Azure static web. If you're going to go that route where you want to host a static web app or website, you'd probably want to go via Azure static web apps today.
Oh, yeah. Like right? That's why like they make it easier. Though like it's in preview right now, but it's evolving very fast. The team there is really aggressive, doing a lot of things. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So quick pause really quick. I see a lot of folks popping into the chat. We got Bald Bearded Builder, Michael Jolly. This is two of my faves on the stream. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you as well, Michael. Built that. This is container. Someone summoning Robert Tables right there.
It was already there.
And then Tofrog saying, Frank and Clark on the same stream. I don't think Twitch can handle that much. Awesome. Thank you, Tofrog.
That's really cool.
Very nice. Cool. And then Robert Tables talking about AWS Amplify, which is similar.
I don't know Amplify. I will take a note. You know what? It's always cool to see, not necessarily on the other side of the fence, but how alternative or like how things are done somewhere else.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. You guys see what developers in the community are interested in, what they're finding beneficial and bringing value to them, right?
Yep.
All right, so back to Azure Storage extension in Visual Studio Code. So the cool thing with this, right, a lot of it is based on right-clicking context menu within this, UI, user interface-based tooling. But I mean, you can create tables, create a queue, refresh to, in case maybe you made one via the portal or somebody else on your team made one, you need to refresh to see it on your end. You can do that. If you need to create a storage account, connect or attach to a storage account. This is the other thing that kind of piqued my interest as we were kind of talking here, and I was just exploring this a bit more. You can attach to storage accounts like local storage accounts. So I believe.
Yeah, there's the emulator.
Yes, you can. If I don't have it, maybe it got installed as part of this. I don't know. But if I wanted to run like an instance of Azure Storage to do locally, maybe I don't have an internet connection right now and I need to do my development, but still continue working on things and making progress, I can run it locally on my machine. So that's nice. That's cool. And we can connect to it and explore it via this extension. Anything else? We can deploy, a lot of what we're seeing. There's different, you go one way or the other. You have your options so that whichever way you're used to discovering features and functionality, you're going to be able to find that functionality that you're looking for via that. So whether it's the right-click context menu kind of thing or via little icons like these ones up in the sash bar, as one would say. Sash. I don't know why it's called a sash. Do you know, Frank? Sorry, a little squirrel moment, but
I just learned a new word. I was again worried about what you just said, and then I assumed it was something else. So
chat, Frank, I don't know why thinks that everything I'm saying has double meaning.
I have a smaller repertoire or vocabulary in English, right? So I do what I can.
But you shouldn't be worried. I'm not going to do that to you.
Well, that's why I was like, it probably means something else.
So yes, at least that's what I've heard before. These little collapsible title areas, I think they did, I think the technical term in the way VS Code describes that UI element is called a sash, but I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. All right, so that's Azure Storage if you're using Azure Storage, which Frank described earlier why you might use some of the reasons or scenarios you would use Azure Storage in. Being that we brought it up and we're talking about it, I want to check out the Azure Static Web Apps extension, which is now installed. Let's say you installed it. We're going through this experience together, folks in chat and viewers watching this maybe later on. We're going to go through. I have not run through this extension before. So we're going to read the README when you have an extension. You click on it. You look at the README that's built into it here. And use this extension to quickly create and manage Azure Static Web Apps, preview directly from VS Code. So let's see if we can do that. Should we try doing that, Frank? Or what do you think? Yeah,
sure.
Am I diverging from the plan a little bit too much? No? Okay.
Yeah, just go for it.
Okay. All right, I'm going for it. Create your first static web app. Click the plus button in the Explorer to set up a new static web app. Okay, where is it under though? Right here. Let's create a new one. The extension Azure Static Web Apps wants to sign in using GitHub. I am overly paranoid in terms of what might show up on screen, Frank. So if you could switch it really quickly to our camera.
Give me 2 seconds.
And I'll talk through everybody.
All good.
Okay. All right. So don't worry, folks. I'm going to talk you through what's going on. So I'm going to click allow. And then that opens up my browser to a website that's about authorize Visual Studio Code to access GitHub. I'm going to click continue. I've done this before. Why? I'm going to click and saying, do you want a single sign-on to your organization? No, I just want to log into me. Then it's asking for GitHub for VS Code by GitHub would like additional permissions to my public SSH keys.
So
Okay.
it's doing exactly the same when you're creating in the portal. When you're creating a new static web app, it's asking you like that. You need to kind of fill a form where it's asking you permission from your GitHub. Because right now, if you want to deploy a static web app, you need to have the code in GitHub. So right now, it's kind of filling for you that form. Am I correct? So it's question by question with the UI of Visual Studio Code in the at the top of the screen in the command palette kind of thing.
I haven't made it that far yet. I'm still signing in and giving permissions.
Oh, it's some pop-up that show up, and then like you need to register.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was basically, to authorize VS Code to have access to my GitHub account. Yep. And then it's saying, okay, return back. Oh, do you want to open up Visual Studio Code again? Do you want to authorize? I'm going to hit open. And now it's saying, do I want to allow the extension to open this URI in Visual Studio Code now? So I'm going to click open. And I'm logged in. Okay, so now we can share my screen again. Let me know when we're ready.
Yep.
Okay, so now now it's kind of hard to see based on the theme I'm using, but in the top center of the screen, there's a prompt that says create static web app, step 1 of 8. I need to enter a new name. I don't know why I was talking like that. A name for the new static web app. What shall we call it, folks in chat? What shall we call it? Shall we call it Funky, Frank?
Yeah, you copy me
Friday,
with your background, right?
Stream. I don't know. Static mix static app. Okay.
Static mix static app. Wow.
Static mix static app. In camel case. Thank you, Bald Bearded Builder in the chat. We're going with that. I hit enter. What organization? This is based on my GitHub organization, so I'm going to go with the Clarkio one. Need to choose a repository. What if I don't have one? Create a new. Oh, there we go. Answered. New GitHub repository. What do we call it again? Static mix static app. Enter. Enter the location of the application code. For example, okay, we'll go with the default. Azure Functions code API. Okay, we'll go with the default. We'll go with the default. Central US sounds good to me. And there we go. Now behind me on the screen, if I make this smaller, will that help? Can you see it better? No, it doesn't resize this guy.
Successfully created new static web app.
Okay. Now I have the option to view the output of that or show actions. That was really fast. That was really fast.
Just Michael, I'm sorry, I was laughing. Michael Jolly said, okay, provided value. Now it's time to click out of the day for the day.
Yeah. Enjoy. Have a good rest of your day, Michael Jolly. You really did. You really did. Job well done. And then, so in terms of what I can do, I clicked on view actions, and what that actually meant was GitHub actions, which this might be new to some folks. But GitHub actions is like, something built into GitHub now.
It's automation flow inside GitHub that automate some processes.
Yes. So I'm looking at that, and it seems to be like it ran something, like it queued a job. It's doing a build and deploy of nothing right now.
Oh, we have a good question from hmoney007 asking, sure, when you say static web app, what exactly does that mean?
Excellent question, HMoney. Thank you for asking it. Like same as old school HTML static web pages, question mark, says HMoney as well. Essentially, yes. So static web app, meaning your application doesn't necessarily require a back-end API or server to host your pages, to host your website, to host your web app. That's to me my definition and the way I would describe a static web app. Doesn't necessarily mean it is static in that nothing changes in the web page. It just means that like I don't know why it's called static in that way, right? It just means that you don't necessarily rely on a server to host the web pages, like an API to host the web page. That's not to say that you can't have an API that goes with it, but you can essentially just deploy and host this website separately on its own without having to host it, having a server, your own written server basically, to host it for you. So H Money says, that makes sense. So if the static web app has a database it writes to, does that make it not static? No, I don't think so, because in this case you can have that. Think of it essentially as this: it's a standalone website that doesn't rely on a server that you write yourself to host the resources for that website to run. Now that app can go make a call over to an API that then accesses a database, and that's still fine. It still makes that component of your full project a static website in a sense. So I hope that helps. Yeah.
We did talk a lot about, that was the topic of episode 15. I was looking in our archive, and I was with John Papa, and the full episode was focused. He showed how to create and deploy many different static web app with using many different framework and everything. At that time, since it was just released, it was just in JavaScript. These days, it's also possible with Blazor. But I put the link in the chat. If you want to have a look, we spend time about thinking about, when does it not mean it's static anymore? Why should we use that? What are the good scenario? And John Papa has many different GitHub repository where you could see whatever framework you're using. At that time, like I said, it was just JavaScript, so there's tons of JavaScript framework, but today you could even use C# Blazor.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So then maybe we don't need to go into any more depth than we have so far, I guess, on Azure Static Web Apps, since we all kind of went through it. But at least we got to see. I mean, I was able to. I know I'm not demonstrating it, but get started at least for the first time to create an Azure Static Web App via the extension. And it did follow through. Like all these prompts, the screenshots that are in the README are actually what I was seeing on my end, but I was being paranoid and didn't want anything to accidentally get, visible on screen with the stream like this. So we went through all those steps, and then if I wanted to actually get my web app up and running, I would push changes to that repository, which will then deploy it to Azure Static Web Apps for me. So that's kind of what it did. It laid the foundation down so that I can now share and deploy my web app via this GitHub repository. That's not to say that's the only way I think you can, or at least will. But anyway, we check out that episode with John Papa that goes into more detail on that kind of stuff. Cool. All right, so that's Azure Static Web Apps. We covered 2 extensions so far now, and working with Azure via the show. How are we doing on time, Frank?
Oh, great. Hey, my sound effect doesn't work.
Uh-oh.
Or it may be just super low. Next time. Let's try again.
Fantastic! Oh,
I didn't hear it.
Fantastic!
You heard it?
Yeah, people will hear it, but not you.
Because
you're not listening to the sound from the stream, right? Otherwise, it will be with a delay. It was fantastic. It was Doctor Who say fantastic.
Oh, okay. I think you should still try to make the sound effect with your mouth, like Michael Jolly shared in chat there. But it's not a sound effect. So you can... Wow, boom. Fantastic.
Oh my god.
All right, so how are we doing on time?
Maybe 10-15 minutes before we... What did I miss? That was hilarious.
No, I'm laughing at the situation. So we have 10-15 minutes? Are you sure?
Let's make it 10, so because I know you will make 20 of it. So Chat,
you know me too well.
Before the show, Brian was scared. We should talk about more extension and stuff. It's like, don't worry, buddy. Things will happen. Oh. So which one is... if we have more... Do you want to talk about the Azure CLI?
I don't, but I know you do. So
well, it's just I had a promise. Now I need to tell, it's fun to use. So
yes,
could you create a new file on your Visual Studio and put the extension AZCLI? So save the file as whatever, like test.azcli. Save it. Control-Shift-S. And then you,
ACLI.
yeah, that's the
Uh-huh.
extension, AZCLI. Well, like you could put like test or demo or whatever as a name of the file, and the extension must be.
It's called Frank. Let's go.
Excellent. Okay, so the tool is not for, like, it's not replacing a terminal. It's when you're working on a script. Maybe you forgot, like, oh, what's the parameter, or what do I need to pass to blah 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 blah. And then, like, when you're building a script, what do? You copy paste the function, copy paste the function, and maybe you, when you did your selection, you didn't copy the full sentence, or like then you got an error, and like, so with that, in that file, what you could write now is you have IntelliSense with the CLI, so that's pretty cool. So right from the bat, when you're just typing AZ and then your tab, you will have all the option of what you want. So you could right away do that if you want. And also, what I really like about that is when you are in your script, you just do control and then tick or apostrophe, and it will take the current line or the current selection and automatically paste it in your terminal. So there's no more copy paste, you just do it. It takes the whatever line you are and move it over there. And if you do it with shift, then it take the result and put it in another tab of Visual Studio Code. So like, for example, you're running a query, you say, oh, give me all the resource group that contain a VM that is disabled or something like that. And like you have a lot of VMs or a lot of containers, and like you want all the result. So you could format the result and have it open another tab. So like then you could search more in detail. So it's really useful when you're like back and forward in a script, or trying to debug a script or write a long deployment script. That tool is very cool for that.
Nice. So I guess, because this is the thing that I've always struggled with, the CLI approach with these things, is memorizing or knowing even all the command options that are there, and then the flags that you can put in, these other options that go with it, like name and query and that kind of stuff. So this kind of helps you where you don't have to memorize those things. You just kind of tab.
Exactly. So right now you just type AZ, and then the that will trigger the extension, and like you type whatever object you want to blah 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 interact with, like
all right, give me an example.
Or database or whatever.
I'll be your
yeah.
code.
Just do AZ.
AZ.
And then tab or control space, I think.
It's loading.
Yeah, it's loading right now. There's a lot.
Oh, a lot. Holy moly.
So it could
billing.
be, let's say, a resource group. So probably group.
Send me all the money.
But could be group. So what you could do is AZ group.
Okay, AZ group.
Or just type G and then tab. And then you could say, I want group. You want maybe to have a better format. So you want to change the output. So you could do we have something called output or something like that? Or we want a list first, right?
Oh, okay. List is loading. Hey, get off the Netflix over there, would you? I need more bandwidth so I can load this faster.
Delete.
Yeah. List?
Yeah.
List
was there. Yeah. So we want to talk about the group. We want a list of it, and then we want to change the format. So if you do that, what's coming up? If you do control space now.
Control space? It's just gonna load. I'm sorry. Too much
loading and streaming
movies.
And stuff. So you could do -O for output.
Okay.
And then tables, because Robert Tables is there, so we'll use that.
Tables.
Table, yeah.
Okay.
Singular, sorry. That was my Franglish.
Franglish.
And then if you right click on that line, it will open the context menu. And you see right there, there's the control apostrophe, or you could just click that to execute it in the terminal. Or if you want to see what's there in the editor, what it does,
Warning. Warning.
Warning.
Credentials have expired due to inactivity. Please run AZ login.
Okay,
Alright.
so like right now what it says is trying to run a command against your Azure subscription, but you're disconnect because it's been a while since you use Azure CLI, and we won't make you connect. But usually what it does, it will open that connection, connect, execute the command, and put the result where you are. So it's pretty cool for that.
Yeah, this is essentially calling me out that I haven't logged into the Azure CLI in a long time.
Well, like, you know, if you refresh or like clean up or like stuff, it will do that too.
Yes, but at least we know that it tried to run the command, so that's working, and it's kind of cool that it shows the output in the editor view here, or if I right-clicked and said go into the terminal as well, right? So
it will open the terminal in the bottom, or like, okay, your terminal is somewhere else. It's not in the bottom.
That's neat. Gotcha. Yes, exactly, Robert Taylor. Shots fired. Don't show this to your boss, Kappa. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. And then Robert Taylor's saying, I think Chair is clogging up your inner tubes with poker chips doing football. I don't know. Maybe. Chair has a mind of its own. All right, moving on.
Moving on. What do you want to show? Like, you still have 10 minutes.
I have 10 minutes?
Yeah.
That means 20 minutes in Clarkio time, right? So 20 minutes. What else do we got here? Let's look at some more of the extensions that we have. We wanted to talk about Docker. Docker, while it's not exactly Azure specific, you can, use Docker and containers within Azure, and that's specific. So, but the beauty of this extension is, regardless of what, whether you're using the cloud or not, or what cloud provider you're using, working and managing your Docker containers and files, Docker files, this extension is going to help you greatly. Very similar to, like, specifically, let's talk about the Docker file stuff. Very similar to what Frank was kind of talking about with the Azure CLI stuff, getting that IntelliSense to know that your scripting of Azure related resources using the Azure CLI is working out right and you're using the right commands. You could do the same thing with your Docker files with Docker. So it can kind of help you make sure you're doing the right thing, or at least finding the right commands that you want to for your projects. Yeah, Docker extension makes it easy to build, manage, and deploy containerized applications from Visual Studio Code. It also provides one-click debugging of Node.js, Python, and .NET Core inside a container. So I don't have Docker running in this moment right now because whenever we're streaming and stuff like that, I try to close out things that I'm not going to necessarily be using to save on resources for my computer I'm running on. But if you have Docker running on your local machine already, this will help you just kind of spin things up within containers using Docker on your local machine. And then you can do things. You'll get a new context menu, which, do I have that available here? Yes, I do. It's hiding behind me. If I move it up, here. When you install the Docker extension, you're going to get, you see, failed to connect because I'm not running it right now. You're going to have this icon in the activity bar. It's the little, the Docker icon. I was combining Docker and icon there. The Docker icon that's available in the activity bar. You can see which containers you might have running, the images that you're using for said containers, whatever registries you might be using, whether that's Docker or Azure, and so forth, and volumes and networks and context. I don't know what all that means, but those are things too that you can manage and use with the Docker extension directly in your development tool.
It's really, really convenient because you don't need to jump and type commands and stuff. You have the list and you could skip through and have only the one you're currently working kind of extend or open. And then like you could dig into it. It's very nice. Generate also Docker file in your project. So when you just like having the rough of your Docker file created for you, that's pretty cool. Then you could deploy from there and watch the status while you're continuing to work on stuff. So pretty nice. I have one question that I saved at the beginning.
Okay, sure.
So before we jump into the Learn module, though like Learn module is about VS Code, so we won't go far. It was, now that I think about it, I wonder how tools like VS Code are making it easier or more accessible for a developer with disabilities. That was a question from Bell Datas.
Yeah, so a couple things I can that I personally have noticed about Visual Studio Code that I believe are taking steps in the right direction in that regard is, for one, if you go to all the release notes, although this is the insider's build version, so my release notes are a bit off. But if we check, it's in the browser. In any case, when you look at the past couple of releases from Visual Studio Code, in particular the release notes for them. So if you go to code.visualstudio.com, again, I'll type it in chat so people can get it that way. Or if you're watching this later, it's code.visualstudio.com. In there, you'll see, there's navigation bar at the top that'll tell you about the release notes. And you can look at all the past release notes from previous releases. And the reason I'm bringing that up is you'll notice at the top, they have bulleted points of like highlighted or things that they want to like showcase in terms of features or things that changed in that release for Visual Studio Code. And you'll notice there's been a continuous trend, at least that I've noticed. It's been significant to me to notice it, where they're focusing on accessibility measures to make it more usable from that perspective, right, for Visual Studio Code. The other thing I'll mention that I've noticed with Visual Studio Code in my adventure and learning and getting experience of trying to program with just my voice and not with typing or using my hands and keyboard and mouse is that when I'm using a tool, like the particular tool I'm using for voice programming lately is called Serenade.ai. But I think regardless of what tool you might be using, Visual Studio Code has been like picking up on the fact that I'm doing that and prompts options in terms of like, hey, we noticed you're using a screen reader or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. I haven't clicked on show me more yet, but I know that it's like kind of recognized that that's happening. And then it wants to try and help out more. So I don't know, like it's not perfect probably, in the sense of like,
it's better than nothing. That's cool.
Well, sure. But it's heading in the right direction is kind of
that's what I mean, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of how I would answer it in terms of that, but there's definitely room for improvement, just like with most things in development. And hey, Athic and Reckless Walnut.
Pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions that we needed to get to, or?
Like that was the question I saved since the beginning. So thank you for your patient bell at us. That was pretty cool. There's a lot of hello, hey, people are happy to see you, and some salutation between themselves. It's perfect that the chat is having fun. So in the next segment, if I can call it, we want to help people to discover, to learn more, because that's the purpose of this show, right? Kind of enable people or empower people to learn more and get started and create things and stuff like that. So we thought about having fun with Learn module. Learn module, Microsoft Learn is a place online that you can find in Microsoft documentation. And I have a Learn module, so I will share that with you. So there it is, my little short link. Mm-hmm. And I will now go to share my screen. That's not bad. And I'm in dark mode. So that's the Learn module. And today, the module of the day is Visual Studio Code. So if you never install Visual Studio Code, you know nothing about Visual Studio Code, you're not watching Brian aka Clarkio stream, then this is the module for you. Or maybe you could catch up some stuff and make some points, because there's some XP here to win. So that's pretty cool. It's really gamified, where they give you points for every module you do. Some modules are part of learning paths. A learning paths is a group of module that could help you for a certification. Microsoft has a bunch of certification, and they could be useful. I personally like to do module just randomly about what I'm looking for or things like that, because I think it's a very fast way to absorb some content. And when I found something and I have a lot of fun, I put that in different language like French, and like I could report some error, and then like they fix it very fast. They are really good. There's always new module also, by the way, so it's pretty fun to do. So what do you think, Clark, Mr. Brian, sorry, Clark, yo.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't. Please don't worry about how you address me. As long as it's something close to my name, I'm happy.
Yeah, it is like Clark. It is your family name, so at least I'm not calling you something else, right?
Yeah.
But it's like if your first name was Clark and your family name Io.
Yeah. No, this sounds good. Develop web applications with Visual Studio Code. We're not gonna. Well, it says it's 45 minutes.
Oh,
Are you
we'll
telling me we
skip
have
through it.
45
Like
minutes?
I won't read. I
Okay.
already did that module, and I just want to like show what it is, what kind of feedback, and like one thing that I really like, and you just brought that, Clark, Brian, is that you know the time. So that's what I like about it, because sometime you could say, oh well, I want to learn about how to deploy, like we spent a lot of time talking about static web app. Well, there's a module that explain how to do that from Visual Studio Code also, because I picked that one because it was really an introduction, but there's plenty of other module with Visual Studio Code. But every time you see average what time it could be. Most of the time for me it's always less than that, but it's a good indication, like, oh, every time I see 45, maybe it's 40 for me, or maybe like if it's a lot of text, then it will be more because I'm a slow reader in English. But there's other language, like I mentioned before. So it's pretty cool because most of the time, except this one is really like how to install the tool, that they don't give you a context. But because I already did it, I don't have the start button, but usually you have a start button and you just jump from page to page like a wizard thing where you pass through all this stuff. So here it gives you like, why would you like to open, like what it is. Visual Studio Code, it's an open source. A thing about Visual Studio Code that we don't think enough, I think it's compatible on all platforms. So you could have Visual Studio Code running on Linux, on Mac, on Windows, so it's pretty cool. So like that's one tool that even if you change PC, like you will have, or machine or whatever, you will still have it. And it's based on the Electron platform. That's JavaScript, right? Is it JavaScript Electron?
Yes. It allows you to like use JavaScript to build like Windows apps, Mac OS apps, and Linux apps.
So pretty cool. And it's specified here that there's a lot of customization possible. So that's pretty cool. And then if you click the continue button, now they explain to you like, okay, where to go to install it. So of course you go to code.visualstudio.com. Let's put that in the chat just to make it easier for you. If you don't have it, you could start right away to install it if you want. And then like it just show you what kind of install it is. It is very simple. One thing I would add, and I don't know if Brian, you agree to that, but wrong button, sorry. Here,
if I agree with what?
Like I would strongly check those two things. It's so nice when you are in Windows, like a file explorer. You could open the file in Visual Studio Code, or you could open the full folder in Visual Studio Code. I would suggest to check all of those, but maybe you'd like another code editor or text editor, so maybe you don't want to register code as the default one. But those two are very, very handy, and I think they add a big plus value to the Visual Studio Code. So would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And the only thing I would say is I imagine somebody that's going through this Learn module, they probably are already using, like if they have other editors, they might, register those as that. But like if you're looking for this specific module and you're going through it, you probably are using VS Code as your main editor. Because otherwise, why go through this Learn module, right?
Well, because you want to learn it.
That's
like
true.
Maybe like you just get a new job, and before you were using like maybe Electron, or maybe Notepad++ or whatever.
Yeah.
Like now that's the new tool, and like you want to learn it quick. Or you watch visual, Clarkio videos, and you learn stuff at the same way. So they're explaining earlier today. We saw the user interface with the Whew, Monday are hard in English. The control bar, is it control bar? Control Shift P? Is it how you?
Command palette.
Command palette, thank you. Command palette, that was not even English, that was just like brain still on vacation.
I got you covered.
So the command palette, so Control Shift P or Command, I forgot the key on Mac.
Command Shift.
That up and this, and then like you type the command. So that's pretty cool. So they explain all the process. Of course, the favorite things, if your name is Michael Jolie, color team, I think for all of us, but for Michael Jolie, he made it a thing where on his stream you will by the chat change the color and like have a lot of fun and mess with him. So like that's always very fun, with some danger because you could be shamed. That's a thing also, but to know it you need to go see his stream. Look like I'm doing an ads for, hey, go see Michael Jolie's stream. So Michael Jolie is the bald beard build. Bald bearder build. No, bar build builder. Triple B. Yeah. I cannot say his name. Like he changed it on purpose, so now I cannot say his name ever. The check is in the mail. Excellent. And then they explain our focus of today was extension for Azure, or like that are good with Azure, but there's tons of really amazing extension like Python. I had Nina coming on the show and she said that the extension with Python made Visual Studio kind of the best place to do Python. Apparently, I don't know Python. You know Python, Brian, right? So
yeah.
I'm assuming with Cecile, right? When you do that on your stream.
Yeah, right on this channel.
Yeah,
Wednesdays
on Wednesday.
Eastern.
Same time Wednesday.
1:30. Yeah.
There's plenty of other. The one I use a lot also is Markdown. So I use Visual Studio Code just even for edit when I'm writing stuff and things. The Markdown edition, the extension is pretty cool. So there's tons are really cool. So we proved that today. And then like they just explain how to search and things like that. So I don't want to pass too much time on that because we spent already kind of time on that. But still, like just by doing that and reading quickly, you could made I think it was 600 points, XP points. So that's pretty cool, right? Talks about new file, how to create new file and things like that. It's really big. So
with those points, I think you can compete against friends too, right? Like you can be like, oh, I've got more points, I got more badges, because you earn badges for completing stuff and whatnot, right?
Well, you could also like it's a gamification of the learning process. I won't make it like a primary objective. I think it's cool, like I'm level 6. I think Jason, who's the co-host of All Around Azure, I think he's level 9.
Ooh, you got some catching up to do, Frank.
Yeah, exactly. Though I don't see that as a competition. It's just cool because, like you feel like you're progressing. Like when you learn stuff, of course you're making a progression, but like that's just in your head, right? It's like nothing tangible. So now you see your points. It's just for you, I think. But it is cool. And like you could have like some kind of challenge when Andy was there. So Lucky Slevin. I kind of challenged him to do a module about VMs. He was talking about VMs and he didn't do the module we introduced, and me neither. So I said, you know what, challenge, let's try to do it. Still on my to-do list though. But yeah, so I think it's a pretty cool extension. Have a look. I paste the link in the chat. And like if you want to learn more about Learn, that's kind of a inception here. You could always go at Microsoft Learn, this URL here, boom, and if you go there, you will see my little, oh, it's not there.
What?
There it is. That's what I was looking for. That's the luggage you saw when I do this.
Oh, yes.
Well, it's not showing again, but
I see.
But yeah, that's the luggage I took. So anyway, so there's plenty of really cool Learn module. And there's learning path, like I said, when you want to learn, let's say Azure. Like if you want to learn a little bit more about Azure, there's the classic Azure Fundamental. You do that, it's very accessible, and you can learn a little bit about all the services on Azure. So it's kind of pretty cool to do.
All right.
See,
excellent.
Those luggage passing by. I had a lot of fun doing that. I need to do more. Let's move you here so I could kind of look at the camera and the chat at the same time now that I'm not sharing my screen anymore.
So now what, Frank?
What?
Now what?
Now what? Now is, last chance for the chat if they have question about who's Brian. If you have any question you would like to ask about the show today, the episode, the Learn module, about Brian. Earlier today we spent some time learning about that superhero, humble superhero that is Clarkio. If you have other question, now is your time. You have about like 7 minutes. Approximately 7 minutes 36 seconds.
No pressure.
Yeah. Azure CLI tool is one of my favorite. GA Walker, I think it's a really good one. It's very useful. When you start coding and doing scripts, it is a very fun one. We won't share. I don't think we'll. Can we bring chair on that stream, Brian?
Possibly. If you give me a moment, I gotta find if I can get chair in here. In the meantime, any other questions?
Yeah.
Let me know.
Where people can find you? I don't know if you can talk while you're searching though. Where people can find you on internet? Essentially,
it's at Clark.io or at _ the little low dash.
So just there, on top of his head, there's is alias for Twitter _Clarkio.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm gonna be. I don't know where I put the chair. Where did I put my chair?
We'll need to have you for a third time.
Is this your way of talking me into doing that?
I'm down for it.
You want to do an all around Azure with chair? Okay.
No, not that long.
Yeah, we can make it happen. Yeah.
I definitely prefer you to chair. I'm sorry for chair.
Thumbs up in chat if you want chair to be on the show with Frank at one time. Let Frank know. Let him know.
For 2 minutes, I'm fine, but like for a full show, I'm not sure your voice will thank you either.
Oh, it'll be fine. I got a thing to handle that now.
Oh yeah. Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah. You'll have to see. You'll have to have chair on. I don't know if chair. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if chair will accept your invitation.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a good exit.
But we'll see what mood chair is in order to. And folks that are like, what the heck are they talking about? I wish I could show you, but with time's not permitting. My chair comes to life on my stream and is the best programmer in the room here. And does way more coding than I do on my own stream. And chair comes to life and talks with you and has some fun, and that's what it is. And it's just chair is dancing constantly and just oscillating.
She's always dancing, right?
Triple B says, I vote a stream of only Frank's and Brian's chairs.
In your dream, mister.
Chair chats. Yes, chair chats.
Yeah, so I was about to say that you stream. We learned that earlier on this channel on Wednesday with Cecile, where you learn Python, right? You started from scratch and kind of building your way. So pretty cool if you're new to Python, like kind of the best practices and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. And like you just mentioned now on your stream, so that's twitch.tv/Clarkio or
yes. Yep. That one's just Clarkio. It's hard to get my name. I have a very common name, so it's hard to get my name on the social media, all the platforms. But for the most part, it's either Clark.io or _Clarkio if you're searching. So and then the other streams I do. So there's that one that's on this channel with Cecil where it's a little over a year now we've been learning Python, but now we're at the point where we're trying to take that knowledge of what we learned about Python, the programming language, and apply it to building something tangible. So we're building out.
What are you building?
we're building out a Twitch tool. Basically, the idea, and it's not to say that. Here's the thing. Going back to the advice I was sharing before, there's other tools out there that kind of do this already, but we're like, we want to apply our knowledge that we've learned about Python to something more practical and tangible. And so the tool thing that we're looking to build is one that does like Twitch schedule tracker kind of thing. So we wanted to know like, hey, what for this list of people that we know are at Microsoft that are streaming, we want to know when they might be streaming and what they might be streaming, so that, hey, if we get a free lunch hour where we have some time to watch somebody and tune in, let's see if we can use this tool to find out who might be live right now, and make it more discoverable. So that's kind of what Cecil and I are working on building. Again, that's on this channel on Wednesdays at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, although we've been off because of conferences and stuff like that have been happening on the channel. So this week will be
little
our
thing
week
like
back.
Ignite and things like that.
Exactly, just a little conference like Ignite. Then I also do a Build Up Devs stream on my channel, on my Clarkio channel, but that's been on hold for a little bit. But what that's about is talking about the human side of being a developer. So talking about career advice and stuff like that. Those questions that we heard earlier from like Loax, that's kind of what we discuss and have that stream about. But that's been on hold. Those should be coming back soon once my co-host there is ready to get going, the niche. And then my own, not private, my own just me stream. Personal. Personal. That's it. Thank you. My own personal stream that is the sole one that I do by myself is on Fridays on the Clarkio channel at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. It gets crazy, so I mean, brace yourself. You've seen a little bit of my weird quirkiness as a guest on the stream, but it's just a little taste. There's a lot more that you may like or you may not. And if you don't like, I totally understand if I'm not your cup of tea.
It's a jump in your head. So like you could jump, do like a few minutes, and then like if you feel uncomfortable, you change channel or whatever. But then like if you like it, just have fun and type some comment in the chat. And so I always enjoy your Friday stream. I don't watch it like all long, but I jump there like then come back. I'm always having a lot of fun when you're streaming. So definitely a chat to have a look at.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I tell people all the time, I mean, I want folks to use their time wisely. And if you can join the stream, you can, cool. If you can't, I totally understand, it is what it is. So there we go.
Voila. And that,
no other
that was
questions
the word of the end. That how do you say that again? Damn it. The last word?
Words? The last word? The last dance.
The last dance? That
Yes.
wasn't the last one. No, that's how we conclude this show. The final word. Thank you, Money7. Swing. The last word. Thank you, Brian, for being with us today. Super appreciated. Thank you all, chat, for your question, your activity. I love streaming and having a show when the chat is there. Feel like, we're having a conversation, we're going somewhere, we are like doing something good. So it's always very nice. I invite you to come back to this channel at the same time tomorrow for another episode of All Around Azure with my co-host Jason. And bye-bye.